is when it comes to investing in leadership and culture development, what criteria do you consider when determining the value of a course?
It's really how practical it is. We can deal with a lot of theory, and I've seen some of these courses out there where it's all theory and no practical application. The people I deal with in the water industry, they want to know what I can do tomorrow. So you
Mhm.
need to give them some tools that they can implement and add to their toolbox right away, and not give them a lot of theory. Now, for a different crowd, you know, mixing in a little more theory might be good. But for people that are really more hands-on types of managers and stuff, they want practical information. So that's really important. Give them something they can apply right now, and gear your training towards that practical applications, and stay away from the theory so much because I mean, obviously we need to throw a little bit of that in. So as far as the background, but the bulk of the training, at least in my segment, and I think this probably applies to a lot of the training out there, is make it hands-on and practical. I think, you as a trainer are going to see more success that way too, and get more positive feedback than just, throwing them a bunch of theory and then let them try to figure out how to make that theory fit. And we can do that um, through case studies, and you can also do it by incorporating some engagement into your training where you can, and this can be challenging for trainers, but you ask people on the spot what their situation is. And usually what I do, especially when I do the in-person stuff, but even online, I'll go around and ask people what their water system is, how many water wells they have, and specific issues they have. And I will address that during the course of my training. If they got a specific problem, I'll kind of, I mean, obviously I can't change up the PowerPoint right on the fly, but I can specifically address their issues for the most part, um, during the training, and so I'll switch up what I'm saying during the appropriate part of the presentation and address their specific issues, and then I may even go back to them and say, does that answer your question that you, or address some of your issues that you presented at the beginning. And so you can tailor it to your audience and make it a lot more practical to them, and I think that's part of the engagement thing. Easier to do in person than online. That is
Mhm.
the big difference between in-person training and online training, is that the engagement, you got to work a lot harder at engagement online than you do in person. I mean, in person, I can go wander around, the people sitting there. I'm not a big one to stand behind a microphone and talk. I'll wander around and chat with people and make eye contact and things like that. And I think that increases engagement too. But actively bringing in what their specific issues are to the
Mhm.
presentation makes it more meaningful. It gives them solutions that are adapted to their specific situation, and just makes the training more effective, I think, than that generic one size fits all presentation. We can't vary from the text that's on the PowerPoint slide.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you don't want to do that. So engaging people by addressing their specific issues makes it more practical, and giving them practical solutions they can take home and implement. And I've had evidence. I've had people get a hold of me after a presentation and say, that I took one thing that you told me and I went home and I applied it, and to my water system, and we checked this and that, and it's amazing how well that worked for me. It gave me information I didn't have before, or whatever it is. And so that feedback tells me you're on the right track with those types of presentations. So really engaging people in that, and addressing their specific issues, I think is very, very important. Like I say, Harder to do online than in person, but you got to work a little bit harder at it online. But it can be done.
Hmm?
You just have to get away from that mentality of we're just going to throw up a bunch of PowerPoint presentations and by golly, I'm gonna say this, no matter what. Now you gotta go off script. It's
Yeah.
more engaging to go off script and memorable and turns out to be more useful for the people that are in the audience anyway.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. So I'm going to read you something just because it's highly relevant to what you say. When I teach English, but this is also related to anything you learn, and it's significant because it dovetails with what you're saying. When I get because I'm still teaching English students and probably will forever, but as a digital nomad, that is pretty soon I won't need to be in Japan. I can do this anywhere. I tell them, look, here's the best way to learn something. It should be frequent, challenging, engaging, applicable, meaningful, relevant, repetition with immediate expert feedback. That is literally a framework based on science in my many years of teaching. But the thing that jumped out was what you said is applicable. If somebody tells me all about their deep knowledge of the grammar of English, it's like, well, I don't teach grammar. I teach you how to use grammar that you can use in real life. And if you have the word monkey, you may feel proud that you know the word monkey, but exactly how often do you use that? If you can't apply it, if it's not immediately actionable within what you're trying to learn about, if you can't use it, it's useless. So, and what I really love there, you said about I'll go off script. I too love live for that very reason and in person for that very reason. If you aren't capable as the expert one claims to be, right? So I know you're an expert at hydrogeology. I don't have to doubt it. If you're not capable of going off script, then it's not especially great at establishing you as being the expert you claim to be. If somebody asks me something, I had somebody ask me at a live talk about basically the neuroscience of memory and learning. Well, Tim, what would be the ideal time for me to learn it? It's like, well, there's a lot of variables, but given the research on attention, probably the very best time, and this is speculative, but after eating, because your attention is highest. And we know that to be the case. So any cognitively challenging task shortly after eating when your blood sugar is higher is more likely to be more effective. That's not all there is. There's that list I just said, but by and large, if you want one time specifically, that's what I would recommend. If you can't answer an unscripted question, then you should not be calling yourself an expert. Call yourself a novice or a speculator, but quit lying, because I, as a customer online, and I think most people, are just tired of these fake experts because they're only fooling the people who know nothing about what they do. Everybody else with a sliver more than zero knowledge, it's just like, this person's full of crap and I know it, and they're gone. They're never going to get me or anybody else as a customer. Another movie reference. Have you seen Catch Me As If You Can with Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio?
No, I've not seen
So
that.
it's an awesome movie. I would really encourage you to see it. It's about a con man who forges checks, and it's based on a true story of a guy named Frank Abagnale Jr. And he was actually teaching courses in school, like teaching at a high school, because he was posing as a high school teacher. All he did, or even at a university, I can't remember, but he was teaching. All he did was read one chapter ahead. And then he just presented the chapter that the students were about to read, and he was successfully able to pass himself off as a teacher. And most experts, in fact, there are people out there promoting this, saying, hey, here's how you can appear to be an expert. It's like, I have a wacky idea. Instead of faking being an expert by being 1 or 2 pages ahead of your audience, why not just be a real expert? Because a lot of us, including myself, every time someone claims to be an expert, I start checking to see whether that's true by the way they speak, and if and when and how they answer questions. If you ask a fake expert a challenging question, chances are, for some reason, your question doesn't get answered. So yeah.
Yeah.
There's a very low level
Exactly.
of,
They'll
yeah,
deflect or go back to what they know or things like that. Yeah.
right. Yeah. There's a low level of trust on the internet because all these fake experts, and I want them all to go out of business. And I'm happy to do anything I can do to make that happen. And some of them are really famous, but the people who know less than them are happy to follow them because they don't know better. Literally, they just don't know enough to know that they're faking. Okay, so the next question is, and we're almost done here. I hope you have enough time for all these